Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and other members of the committee for the opportunity to testify today. As this committee crafts a budget for fiscal year 2015, there are several priorities that I urge you to consider. First, sustained long-term funding for basic science had led to discoveries of new technologies that revolutionize our way of life and spur job creation and advance our global competitiveness. Despite the fact that over half of U.S. economic growth since World War II has been driven by science and technology, federal investments in R&D are at a historic low, comprising less than 4% of the federal budget. The region in Illinois that I represent is the home of a number of scientific centers, including Fermi National Accelerator Laboratory and Argonne National Laboratory. Projects in the pipeline at these institutions hold enormous promise for revitalizing our energy and manufacturing sectors. For example, the advanced photon source upgrade at Argonne will increase the brightness of the photon source 100 to 1,000-fold, creating transformational new opportunities in science and technology. Additionally, in February, the Department of Defense awarded funding to Chicago-based UI Labs to create the Digital Lab for Manufacturing. This private public manufacturing institute will focus on digital manufacturing and design technologies. These projects will create thousands of new jobs in advanced manufacturing. I urge the committee to fully fund the Office of Science at the President's FY15 budget request level of $5.1 billion and to fully fund the National Network for Manufacturing Innovation. Another issue that requires this committee's attention is the Department of Homeland Security's arbitrary detention bed quota, which requires that Immigration and Customs Enforcement maintain at least 34,000 immigrants in detention every single day. This arbitrary quota results in a gross overspending on immigration detention. In 2014, we will spend nearly $2 billion on immigrant detention, which amounts to $5.4 million a day or $159 a day per detainee. This wasteful federal spending continues despite the availability of other proven and cheaper alternatives that cost as little as 70 cents a day. Eliminating the detention bed mandate will not only save families the heartache of being torn apart, it will save taxpayers millions of dollars. I would also like to call this committee's attention to the epidemic of heroin abuse that is increasing throughout the country. The number of deaths related to drug overdoses has risen dramatically over the past decade and has now overtaken motor vehicle crashes as the leading cause of injury-related deaths in the United States. We must make greater investments in the federal agencies that fight opioid abuse and fund new and promising research programs in opioid addiction. These agencies include the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration, the Drug Enforcement Administration, and the National Institute on Drug Abuse within the NIH. These programs investigate everything from heroin vaccines to new, easier-to-administer formulations of naloxone, a prescription medicine that reverses an opioid overdose. In light of this epidemic, I urge the committee to fully fund federal programs that prevent and treat opioid addiction. I would also like to emphasize the importance of fully funding the Army Corps of Engineers Civil Works program. The Des Plaines River, part of the inland waterway system, runs through my congressional district. The American Society of Civil Engineers has issued our waterway infrastructure a D- in their 2013 annual report card and noted that more than half of the locks in the system are more than 50 years old. Maintained by the Army Corps of Engineers, the inland waterway system is a critical component of our freight network that provides an affordable transportation option for bulk shipments. The final issue that I'd like to raise is that Illinois is one of several states that send far more money to the federal government in taxes than we get back, to the tune of roughly $20 billion a year. Our government should not be in the business of redistribution of wealth between the states. Part of this comes from the structure of our tax code. Part of it comes from the imbalance in the military spending. But a big part of it is a subsidy that I think is unjustifiable. When businesses take jobs out of Illinois and into low-wage states, where workers are not paid enough to support their families, then the taxpayers of Illinois are then asked to pay to subsidize the increased cost of support programs like Head Start and food assistance. So the net effect of the government spending programs is that we are effectively subsidizing the deindustrialization of the upper Midwest, the Northeast, and the coastal states. So as you craft your budget, I urge you to level the playing field for states like Illinois. Thank you much.